Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey, this is Alex. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. The Mortarpod is brought to you by Verenkamp.com. That's VEHRENKAMP.com. Scott Verenkamp's done a lot of work for me on SeemsGoodMagic.com. He did a great job, so check out his portfolio for your web design needs. This week, Jake and I are talking about Antiquities. We didn't really have too much more Theros to talk about. There were a few more spoilers, but we don't really talk about them yet in this podcast. We want to start kind of going back to the history of Magic and looking at old cards and old abilities and kind of what new iterations they were responsible for eventually making. So, or helping to create, I should say. So, yeah, we take a look at a lot of cards from Antiquities. We don't finish them all, but I'm sure we can wrap it up next week, as well as get some more of those Theros spoilers for you. So, pretty short podcast today, but that's not a huge deal. Not every single one has to be 2 hours long, I'm sure. Anyway, you can message me at mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com if you have any comments, concerns, questions, criticisms. I'd love to hear them. Follow us on Twitter at SeemsGoodMagic, and watch me live stream Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time. Okay, without further ado, enjoy this week's episode. All right. You want to talk about a little Antiquities?
Yeah. Seems logical, I think.
Second set in Magic to ever come out. I think last time we were talking about old cards, we left off on Arabian Nights. We talked about, hit some of the key points in there. Saw some of the horrendous wording on
Saw Merchant Ship, at least.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what does Merchant Ship do again? Isn't that
I think it's a 0/2 for 1 blue island home.
And if it hits, or if it's not blocked, you, get to do...
You gain 2 life.
That's wow. Everything about that card.
Makes so
perfectly
much
blue. Early island home card, or
I
island?
think it had island home, but I'm not sure.
All right, on to Antiquities. The first card is Amulet of Krug. We don't really have to talk about this card. It's actually a fine limited card if you think about it, but it's a 2-mana artifact, and you pay 2 and tap it. Prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn.
I used to play with these when I was a kid.
Yeah, totally. I love the picture on it. It's just some,
literal amulet. It looked cool. It's very
hand,
cool.
Obviously a woman's hand, handling it. or a man in drag.
Yeah, I guess. Could be a guy in drag.
But anyway, 2 mana tap, preventing 1 is actually fine for limited. But in terms of constructed play,
not that good.
Pretty expensive. Argivian Archaeologist, 3 mana, 1/1 Human Artificer, and you pay 2 white and you tap it. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. This card's actually really cool.
It is. Cool.
It's a rare. You can see that.
A lot.
Yeah, you can totally see that in white too. In fact, recent examples of similar are that card from Scars, the Salvage Scout. Is that what his name is?
Yeah. You sack him to return 1 from your graveyard. They've had Treasure Hunter that comes in and gets you 1 back. There has to be.
And this is all white.
One. Yeah.
Cool.
I feel like there's more, but
this is a good rare.
Yeah.
Keep getting it back. Pretty good with Black Lotus.
Yeah. Pretty...
If you had it on tap. If you had to wait on tap, it'd be better.
Just play it turn 1. Black Lotus into Argivian Archaeologist and the Plains.
That's true, and then you get turn 2, 3 mana again. Interesting. Argivian Blacksmith, 3 mana, 2/2 Human Artificer. That's not what he originally was. Originally, summon Smith.
Some guy named Smith.
Prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to target artifact creature this turn. So I'm already seeing a theme here. Looks like white. In fact, every color has to do with artifacts.
I think almost every card has the word artifact on it. I think that it was that hard of a theme, and if it wasn't, the artifacts obviously got to not have the word artifact on them, in their rules text, but I think a lot of the colored cards had to have artifact in them.
It's interesting. Definitely.
Mhm.
Argothian Pixies, this is an old one I remember. 2 mana, 2/1 fairy. Can't fly. Argothian Pixies can't be blocked by artifact creatures. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to Argothian Pixies by artifact creatures.
That's
so
cool.
Probably good in this set.
Yeah, a good blocker at least.
Yeah, but
would have been a much better flying creature, so I could block the Clockwork Avian.
And I mean, they occasionally have flying in green. It does seem like they've really strayed away from flying in green now.
Mhm.
You don't see like the fairies in green that you used to.
Yeah.
They just
It's
didn't
true.
like that. I think they just figured blue. Let's stick to that.
Yeah.
Argothian Tree Folk, 5 mana, 3/5 Tree Folk, prevent all damage that would be dealt to it by artifact sources. All right, so that's like a little mini green theme kind of going on.
Mhm.
Armageddon Clock, 6 mana artifact. This is an oldie but a goodie. I remember playing it,
Me too.
but it was annoying.
Maybe good in a land destruction deck?
At the beginning of your upkeep, put a Doom counter on Armageddon Clock, and at the beginning of your draw step, Armageddon Clock deals damage equal to the number of Doom counters on it to each player. But you can pay 4 mana to remove a Doom counter from Armageddon Clock, and any player can activate it.
And during any upkeep, so.
But only during any upkeep
Yeah.
step, I see. Okay. That's kind of a theme they've gotten away from, isn't it? That any player may activate. That was
Yeah, they want your kill condition to actually be a kill condition, I think. Or do you just mean in general having things that have anybody can activate them?
What was the set that had that theme going on with like the creatures?
Prophecy and Mercadian Masks block was pretty much the big offender because it was Mercadian Masks. It was supposed to be that everything was for sale, so even your creature's loyalty, so they could use your creature abilities just as easily as you could use theirs or whatever for the most part. And then in Prophecy, it was like the Rhystic spells and the Rhystic stuff that people could just pay to counter your spells, basically.
That was a good cycle. A lot of those cards are pretty highly playable in Commander, like the Mystic Remora or whatever. Do you remember that card?
Yeah, Rhystic Study.
And Rhystic Study, too.
Is really good, yeah. But a lot of the other ones are not that playable in Commander, for the Rhystic spells at least.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But letting people use your creature abilities, that's not really that bad, you know?
Yeah. Drawing the cards off Rhystic Study was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really obnoxious in multiplayer.
Yeah.
But Armageddon Clock actually seems okay
Mm-hmm.
in a multiplayer game. It seems like it's actually a pretty fun card. It
Yeah.
just builds up fast.
It's unfortunate
it's only
that...
I see. It should build up each turn.
Exactly. Like, this one is just a little too overworked, you know?
It's too slow, unfortunately.
Yeah, letting people activate during any upkeep is unfortunate. If it was only during your upkeep, it would be something else, you know? It'd be a little cooler.
Artifact Blast, 1 red, instant, counter target artifact spell. But it was good in this set.
Yeah.
Artifact Possession, 2 and a black, enchant artifact. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped, or a player activates an ability of enchanted artifact without tapping its activation cost, artifact Possession deals 2 damage to that artifact's controller. A little bit too narrow, I would say. Artifact Ward. This is something, makes it so the enchanted creature can't be blocked by artifact creatures, prevent all damage, and it can't be the target's abilities from artifact sources. Wow, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Artifact Ward is pretty sweet, actually. I mean, it's not that great, I guess, but it's cool enough.
It's crazy how much Oracle text was needed for that. So it didn't want to give it protection? That's weird.
I don't think they could. Because technically an artifact spell can still target it. You know? If there was such a thing as an artifact enchantment aura, you know?
It could be. It can't just give it protection from artifacts?
Because protection is also... It can be the target of artifact spells. Oh. Yeah. No, that's right.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost protection, but it's not quite.
Weird. So it's just that facet short of protection? Just missing you can still target with artifact sources like Ghostfire or something? Or...
Yeah, they probably had that argument like, well, there's no such thing as an artifact spell like that targets something, so that's why they probably wrote it out, because I think protection was available to them at this time.
Yeah, it would have been.
So
they were just worried about that? That's weird. Okay. Ashnod's Altar, 3 mana artifact, sack a creature, add 2 to your mana pool. There's an unlimited mana combo with this.
There's like a million of them.
Enduring Renewal and any free or
Ornament
1
or
mana.
Meta
Yeah.
Knight, yeah.
Any of the free. I mean, they had kobolds at the time too.
Yeah.
So Enduring Renewal, just keep playing it and adding 2 to your mana pool. And then kill them with a rocket launcher maybe. Who knows?
You have to wait a turn.
You can't use the turn you play it.
Yeah, I think Rocket Launcher has that.
Stipulation
Yeah.
on it. That's funny. Ashnod's Battle Gear, 2 mana artifact. You may choose not to untap it during your untap step. And then it has 2 tap. 2 in tap, target creature you control gets +2/-2 for as long as Ashnod's Battle Gear remains tapped. Earliest example of equipment we can see. I mean, it pretty much functionally is pretty close to the same thing.
It's instant speed.
The only difference is you have to tap it, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to use it multiple times a turn.
Mhm.
So it is actually weaker. And Ashnod's Transmogrant, 1 mana artifact, tap, sacrifice it, put a +1/+1 counter on target non-artifact creature. That creature becomes an artifact in addition to its other type. Cool picture on this.
Yeah, I'm a
And,
big fan of that art.
The wording is unfortunately kind of broken in the original way. It says target non-artifact creature gains +1/+1 is now considered an artifact creature, though it retains its original color. Discard it after it's used. The thing is, they're like inconsistent within their own set because later we see that
They
now
can do +1/+1 counters.
yeah, and it is supposed to say +1/+1 counter, so pretty strange. Atog, this is kind of a famous old card. I think it was actually good win con in the time of Moxes and Black Lotuses.
Definitely then.
But it's 1 in a red, 1/2, and then sack an artifact and it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I can tell you in the Chandelar game, that was like a route I always went. Atog and just get all the Moxes and Black Lotus.
Yeah.
So, pretty strong
He's
card.
so strong, yeah, in that kind of a deck.
I feel like even in this set, he would have been really good.
Oh, yeah.
Just because there's plenty of
Cheap
art.
ones, too.
Yeah.
Like cheap, useless ones.
Like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Battering Ram is a 2 mana construct. Beginning of combat on your turn, Battering Ram gains banding until end of combat. And when Battering Ram becomes blocked by a wall, destroy that wall at end of combat. So Battering Ram's a pretty fascinating card. I don't know why it's a 1/1. Seems strange. But I used to play this card.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's a log. It's supposed to be a log. And why it has, 1 power by itself is even kind of funny. It should just be able to only destroy walls,
But not that great of a card. You have to wait until end of combat to even destroy the wall.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's really terrible. But...
yeah. Can still be blocked by walls. Banding, kind of an old school ability.
Banning's a really great ability, though.
We got to play with it online, and that was very interesting. Because it felt good to finally
see how it works.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, the entire reason they had to get rid of it was because
too much rules text.
People were just getting lost.
Yeah.
But Battering Ram, I think, is a pretty awful card. I mean, it does have banding, I guess, but it's okay. I bet it was playable at the time. But it feels like you almost want to... There's a lot of protection from artifacts in the set and ways to destroy artifacts. So this would be a fun one, too.
Draft?
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
But it's so small.
I know, but it'd still be really fun. It'd be like drafting a small set.
Do it once or twice.
Really, really small, yeah.
Bronze Tablet's next one. 6 mana, rare. Remove it from your deck before playing. If you're not playing for Anti, one of those cards, huh? Bronze Tablet enters the battlefield tapped. 4 in tap, exile it.
In case you had the 10 mana lying around, you're not going to be able to use it.
Exile Bronze Tablet and target non-token permanent an opponent owns. That player may pay 10 life. If he or she does, put Bronze Tablet into its owner's graveyard. Otherwise, that player owns Bronze Tablet, and you own the other exile card.
Good with Karn. Wait, how is it? Yeah, because you'd get to shuffle their card into your deck, and they'd get to shuffle your Bronze Tablet. If you restarted the game.
Yeah, pretty expensive to finally take a card you want. and you couldn't even
To
do.
just smash it though.
I love that
Just
you
take there.
you can't even take Black Lotus with it.
Yeah. The thing about it is you have to pay 10 life. So if they had less than 10 life,
Then they just got
you just got it. They could concede in response to the activation.
I don't think they had that ruling then. I don't think they allowed for that. That's really funny though. Just concede. I guess you could.
You can always just concede, right?
Well, then this card's the worst card ever.
It makes your opponent concede.
I guess. Candelabra of Tanos. This is like a famous card. I should know why. It's probably played in some crazy legacy decks.
Yeah, High Tide plays it.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Because it doubles what each of the lands can tap for. But this is a 1-mana artifact, and then it has X and tap.
So stupid.
Untap X target lands. What can you say about it?
I mean, it's good. It's really good with Soul Ring.
It's cool with wild growth stuff.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Mana Flare.
Mana Flare.
Yeah, that card's crazy with Mana Flare.
So it could essentially like double your mana. It's probably a pretty expensive card.
It's a very expensive card. I think it's upward of 200 to 300.
Circle of Protect and Artifacts. The next one, 2-mana enchantment. The next time an artifact source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. Obviously good in this set, huh?
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory.
Do you think they're getting away from circle protections nowadays?
I think that
They're
they
done.
are.
They're
Yeah,
done.
I think they're pretty much done with it. They might do like story circle style, where you have to pay white to activate it, and
They might have done that since 10th edition,
That
or
was-
Lorwyn.
in 10th edition.
There
but
was that Ruined Halo one that was kind of
I think that's more the direction they would want to go. Like Nevermore, you just can't play that.
a little
Yeah.
more specific.
Yeah, and it stops it completely, but it is really specific.
Sentinel Druid, 2-mana human druid, 1/1, and whenever an opponent casts an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it.
Pretty
Cool.
good.
I like that. Probably in this set it was insane.
Mm-hmm.
Clay Statue. This is
So
an oldie
good.
but a goodie. 4-mana, 3/1, and then you can pay 2 and regen them. Yeah, when was the last time they brought this one back?
I don't know, but this one's like a really good one to bring back, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This could be in Theros.
It's a really good card actually. Still, I feel like it holds up well.
Mm-hmm.
Colorless, so it works anywhere, yeah, and with the 3 power, with regen, it really goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. And just 1 toughness, so it's easy to kill with black.
So you pretty much do need to keep the, oh I see, with the like negative.
Yeah, so I'm just saying it's not overpowered.
And you can
common or
make them
anything.
sacrifice it. Clockwork Avian, this is like part of Cycle. This one is 5
I think
mana.
this one was the second one, and Clockwork Beast was in the core set. So, yeah, Clockwork Beast started the cycle, and then Clockwork Avian kept it going. So, yeah, the cycle just continued until...
As the sets went on?
Yeah, until, like,
interesting.
I guess Mirrodin and then Time Spiral, too, had Clockwork stuff in them.
This one's 5 mana, 0/4 bird with flying. Enters the battlefield with 4+1/+0 counters on it. Nice counters. You said they don't do that anymore, right?
What do you mean?
+1/+0?
Oh, no, they don't do that kind of counters anymore. In fact, the Clockwork cards from Mirrodin were all +1/+1 counters, so they died when they had no counters on them.
Okay. At end of combat, if Clockwork Avian attacked or blocked, you remove a +1/+0 counter from it, and then it has X and tap, and you can put up to X +1/+0 counters on it, but you can't get more than 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a cool idea for a card, because it's like they're wind up.
Yeah.
You need to wind them up, and they're getting weaker as they're running out of wind up time.
Mm-hmm.
I really see like what they were going for.
Yeah, the
flavorfully.
flavor works really well.
It's a rare too. I didn't
Mhm.
realize that.
It's like a Sarah Angel.
It's a strong card.
Yeah.
And colorless. In limited, I
Mhm.
bet this was a highly playable card.
The art's pretty sweet, I think.
I guess the fact that you have to do it during your upkeep is actually relevant.
Mm-hmm.
You can't like block and then
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they've strayed away from that.
keeping this specific.
Deactivate it during your upkeep, like Clockwork Hydra from Time Spiral. I know you just tap it to do it. and you put 1/1/1 counter on it.
There is a lot of things dealing with only during your upkeep, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
The next card is kind of a famous one, Colossus of Sardia. It was probably... When did Leviathan first come out?
The Dark.
Okay, so this
was
is the biggest card.
Yeah.
When it came out. It's a 9-mana, 9/9 golem. It's got a sweet picture too. Artifact. And it doesn't untap normally during your untap phase. It's a 9/9 trample too, so
Yeah.
it really is a relevant creature. And you have to pay 9 during your upkeep to untap it.
You should look at the other art for it.
Okay. Which ones do you like?
This one's kind of interesting.
First art, we should kind of describe it to the listeners. So the
Yeah.
first art is sort of like
Just a giant with fire in the foreground, and the fire is cast up onto this giant golem with its hands up, presumably crushing the forces in front of it.
The 6th edition picture is pretty cool too.
Yeah, this one's the 5th edition. I don't know if the 6th edition is different, but...
Oh, okay. Do you want to describe this one?
It's just the head and chest, but you can see the birds in the foreground that are pretty much dwarfed by just the head and chest of it, so you're led to believe that it's very large.
It's a pretty cool picture. It's kind of stormtrooper-ish in its appearance a little bit, but...
Yeah, I like the 10th edition version the most, I think.
I guess, yeah, its face is kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
It's almost like Sphinx-like or something like that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I like this one the most, I think.
So 10th edition one appears to be some sort of like golem-looking... Well, it is a golem.
Yeah.
But just really large, almost
It's like
mindless,
stomping through a lake or something.
like a mindless golem that has some extremely muscled, chiseled body.
features, yeah.
Tiny little head, huge body. So that one, and... Okay. So, old card. A lot of very nostalgic card. Coral Helmet, the next one. And it's 3-mana artifact, 3-mana ability, discard a card at random, and target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It's actually kind of a cool card.
It is.
It's definitely not, I wouldn't call it great, since you do not only have to discard a card, but discard it at random. I don't even understand what it's trying to say, flavorfully, but...
I don't either. I don't know why Coral Helm, but... Yeah, discard a card at random is pretty unfortunate. And the fact that I think this card was a rare, too.
No, I guess it was... Oh, it was, you're right. Okay. Kind of a disappointing rare. Crumble. 1 green instant, destroy target artifact, can't be regenerated, and that artifact's controller gains life equal to its converted mana cost. Probably bomb in this set. Just
Crumble
like
is great.
1 mana green, just removal.
That's a nice clay statue you got there.
I mean, Scars of Mirrodin block was pretty similar in that shatters were like pretty much hard removal for at least like 60-70% of the format.
Yep. And the same with like Divine, whatever it was, Divine Offering.
Curse Rack, 4-mana artifact. As Curse Rack enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. The chosen player's maximum hand size is 4. Interesting. It's a little clunky.
It's in line with the rest of the rack ones, which punish you for having more than 4 or less than 4. And then, I'm really sorry about that.
Curse Rack might have went over better if it was a if it was each opponent. The fact that you have to choose makes it a little less good. Damping Field, 2 and a white enchantment. Players can't untap more than 1 artifact during their untap steps. Huh. Guess it's decent here. Detonate is the next one. Redneck, sorcery, destroy target artifact with converted mana cost X, can't be regenerated, and it deals X damage like artifact's controller. That seems really strong in this set. So, already seeing plenty of good artifact removal. Draftman's Restoration, 1 blue sorcery, return any number of artifact cards from target player's graveyard to the top of his or her library in any order. Cool.
That's good. That's alright.
If you have good artifacts that support it. Dragon Engine, this is a kind of old and cool one. 3 mana artifact creature construct. It's a 1/3. 2 mana and it has fire breathing. So what do you think about this card?
It's interesting that it was a common in this set, and then once they brought it to the core set, they made it a rare. Because it doesn't seem good, you know.
I think it seems all right for a limited. Actually, the 3 toughness with it can eventually do some decent trading.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, it's certainly not a rare, and it feels fine at perfectly acceptable at common.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Dwarven Weaponsmith, 1 in a red, Dwarf Artificer. Sack an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, activate this ability only during your upkeep.
There's that upkeep thing again.
Yeah, and I mean it's okay. At least this is a card that shows that Transmog Grant, Ashnod's Transmog Grant is inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Because this actually says put a +1/+1 counter, even on the original one.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make
well,
sense.
and Clockwork Avian even used counters.
Yeah, it's very strange. They may have originally just made the Transmog Grant a one-time effect.
Mm-hmm.
Energy Flux, 2 in a blue, enchantment. All artifacts have, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this artifact unless you pay 2. Probably good in this format. Noticing a theme here. A lot of these cards are very narrow.
I'm
in the grand
pretty sure
scheme of things,
each one says artifact on it, like
or
the colored
is an
cards.
artifact.
Yeah.
Feldon's Cane, here's a pretty oldie but a goodie. It's a 1-mana artifact, tap, exile it, and you get to shuffle your graveyard into your library. Pretty relevant effect. Definitely good against the original mill decks.
Mm-hmm. This is where Millstone came out, I think.
And now it's uncommon in M14. It's come a long way.
Yeah.
Guy's Avenger, 3 mana, 1 star, 1 star, the classic. 1+ star, 1+ star.
Is this the first use of star?
I mean, they don't do that much anymore, do they? Where it's a star with a plus next to something. They didn't do that.
Callback Life.
Was that the last time? Did they do it more recently?
Anytime when it's variable and it's always fluctuating and it's always checking, that's a star.
I wasn't talking about stars. I'm talking about with the 1+.
Oh, well,
because that seems
they
sort of...
would usually assign it like for the Lurgoyce or whatever. They like to give them 0 or 0/1 so that they survive if nothing's in the graveyard.
I see.
But I know that they didn't do that with the cycle from Odyssey. They were just star.
Huh. Yeah, I feel like I don't see that much anymore anyway, where it's like a 1+ star. They typically are just star or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, Avenger power and toughness equal to 1+ the number of artifacts your opponents control. Probably pretty decent in this format. Once again, Gate to Phyrexia, enchantment, sack a creature, destroy target artifact, activate this ability only during your upkeep, and only once each turn, another during your upkeep. What do you think about this card? This is kind of interesting.
This card's amazing for black, but doesn't make any sense. Like, black has no real ability to destroy artifacts.
I've never seen that anywhere else. It's really unique.
Tribute to Phyrexia is from Mirage, and it's a sorcery that lets you sacrifice 2 creatures to destroy an artifact for 3 mana.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Goblin Artisans, 1 red, it's 1 mana, 1/1, tap, flip a coin. If you win the flip, draw a card. If you lose the flip, counter target artifact spell you control that isn't the target of an ability from another creature named Goblin Artisans. A little bit confusing there.
Yeah.
So flip a coin. If you win, draw a card. Lose, counter target artifact spell you control. So you can only do it when you're casting an artifact. I see. They must have had some very confusing wording on the original.
Yeah. It was very confusing.
It's kind of a cool idea for an ability, though. I understand what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's a fun ability at the very least. It's cool that this is red card draw.
Alright, this is a fun card next. Golgothian Silex, 4 mana artifact, 1 in tap. Each non-token permanent from the Antiquities expansion is sacrificed by its controller. So they don't do this ability more. They did it one other time with Homelands, right? Or they do it somewhere else too.
Homelands, I think, is the last time they did it.
Graveshot Catapult, 4 mana artifact creature, 2/3. Tap, deals 1 damage to target creature with flying. This is a cool card. I feel like this would have been good and limited. Flyer Killer. It doesn't make sense as an artifact creature. Well, I guess it's supposed to be this, but why is it operated by a
Orc?
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember playing those though, and they were very good when I was a kid.
Haunting Wind. Enchantment. Whenever an artifact becomes tapped or a player activates an artifact's ability without tapping its activation cost, Haunting Wind deals 1 damage to that artifact's controller. Whenever an artifact becomes tapped or a player activates an artifact's ability without tap and its activation cost, deals 1 damage to that artifact's controller. It's pretty interesting.
That's my fault.
You can really nuke them if they have a bunch of tap abilities. I see.
Yeah.
Hercule's Recall, 1 in a blue instant. Return all artifacts target player owns to his or her hand. I feel like this card was actually played at a time, wasn't it? Or
It's been played. I think it still sees some sideboard play in Legacy, but
this would have been a really powerhouse spell because it's one-sided. You know what I mean? And it's a big artifact set. Like if it was just return all artifacts,
yeah,
it wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, the versatility is what makes it great because you can avoid like their Shatterstorm, or you can.
It's a rare too. Okay, so it's like
out.
old school Cyclonic Rift, but super cheap, but a little more narrow
Could
too.
Potentially be devastating though in this set.
Ivory Tower, 1 mana artifact. This was played for a while too. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand minus 4. I mean,
Turn 1, it's good.
so turn 1, on your next turn, you gain 2. No, you gain 1.
1, but I think you used to draw always on your first turn. You know?
You used to draw on your first turn?
If you went first, it didn't matter. You would draw first.
I had no idea. I don't remember that time. That's crazy. But Ivory Tower seems okay. Seems not that great by today's standards, but I do remember it being played at the time. And it's cool, like, looking card.
It definitely was.
It's good nostalgia.
Cool. Yeah.
Jalum Tome, 3 mana artifact, 2 in tap, draw a card, then discard. Seems, well, I mean, I guess it would be good for a red deck at the time or something.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's a fine uncommon.
It's a loot effect that 4 colors that don't typically have that, like green and red. I could see getting a lot of benefit from this.
Even black might like it a little bit.
Everything but blue would actually.
Yeah, actually white would really benefit from that.
Because white doesn't get drawn very often at all. Martyrs of Corliss. This looks interesting. 5 mana. I don't even think I've seen this card before. 5 mana, 1/6 human. As long as Martyrs of Corliss is untapped, all damage that will be dealt to you by artifacts is dealt to Martyr. Oh, okay. So he's like a artifact-y version of the veteran bodyguard. Is that what he was?
Yeah. And he's a 1/6, so I think it's a little different than the bodyguard.
I think he was a 2/5. The bodyguard. Mightstone, 4 mana artifact. Attacking creatures get +1/+0. Seems a bit expensive, but I guess it is an artifact, so.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it benefits your opponents too.
Yeah, it's really shitty for that.
Just a little bit too pricey.
But I guess
cool picture,
you get
though.
to attack with it first, at the very least. It's not like Howling Mine.
Yeah, that's true. So you get the initial benefit.
And they're not getting that benefit on defense either, so.
Millstone, 2 mana artifact, 2 in tap. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into their graveyard. Once again, we saw this come back in M14. I wouldn't have even minded if they used the original art. I kind of like the original art.
Yeah, that art's fine, but I'm glad they changed it.
Now I need to look.
It's not that it's better per se. They just needed to change it.
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a picture of like half a dude's head and where his brain is. It's the Millstone. Mishra's Factory. This is definitely a highly played card. Is this still worth some? I guess it's not worth much, is it? Maybe the original version of it. But it says land, tap for colorless, and you can pay 1 in tap. Comes a 2/2 assembly worker. So it's essentially Mutavault, you know, power and toughness wise. And then it also has tap and target assembly worker. Creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So definitely a card that you'd want to play multiples of.
They had 1 for each season, and I think one of the seasons is rarer or more rare than the other ones.
I see. Mishra's War Machine. 7 mana, 5/5 Juggernaut with banding. At the beginning of your upkeep, Mishra's War Machine deals 3 damage to you unless you discard a card. If Mishra's War Machine deals damage to you this way, tap it. This is an old bomb card, old bomb creature, but in retrospect, it's pretty hard to use. Quite a disadvantage.
Banding's not quite good enough either.
It's not trample.
Yeah.
Felt like it should have definitely had trample. But the reason the picture, I always thought the picture was really cool. Because you can see all the dudes operating inside of the War Machine. And it's like a very huge looking carriage almost.
Like a mushroom.
Definitely a good nostalgic card.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Juggernaut creature now, interestingly. Mishra's Workshop. This is worth a bunch of money, right?
Yeah.
It's a land that taps for 3 mana, but you can only spend it on artifact spells. But still, I mean,
yeah,
you can do some crazy stuff with that.
3 free mana.
Mishra's Workshop, Soul Ring. What do you got?
That's 4 mana left at that point.
Pretty good.
And if you play another 0 mana artifact.
Could build a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Obelisk Undoing, 1 mana artifact, 6 and tap, return target permanent you both own and control to your hand.
Not good.
Very expensive. Almost should have been 6. It should have been 6 mana and then 1. They kind of designed it a weird way.
Yeah.
Amulet. This is an oldie but a goodie. It was actually in the Channelar game too. 3 mana, 2/2 construct, and when it dies, you gain 2 life.
I always like this card. Amulet.
Grey Ogre otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Workish Mechanics. Was it a rare or was it a... It was an uncommon, okay. Workish Mechanics. 2 and a red, 1/1 orc. Tap, sack an artifact. It deals 2 damage to target creature player. Wow. But that was real good this time. And it's, especially since you don't have to pay anything to get the ability. I guess it is a 3 mana 1/1 though. But
yeah.
Double-edged sword. And then Ornithopter still retains the test of time as...
People still like it.
Yeah. Still played in Modern Affinity.
Mm-hmm.
And just an old school card involved with some comboing because it was a free creature. Was it the first free creature?
Yeah. Ornithopter was the first 0 mana cost.
That's
guy.
cool. Well, we can do the last 2 pages on the next podcast. I think that's going to be it for this one. Hope you had a good time with that. Sorry we're not doing a draft at the end. I think it's mostly because I'm getting my butt kicked so bad in M14. But the rest of this M14 season, I'm planning on drafting Swiss drafts and doing like cool strategies since you get 3 matches to play regardless. So I might go for more of like the mill deck every once in a while. Millstone, Tome Scour, or Chaomancer. There's not too many other tools. Traumatize, which usually gets passed around.
Yeah. You have to be in the mill strategy to even want Traumatize, but it's so near, or like, it's, have you played against it?
No.
I feel like it is a really hard one to get, but if you can get it early and like solidify yourself as the mill player, it can go really well for you.
I mean, the thing is, once you have Jace, that's all you need. He does it in 2 turns on his own.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it for this podcast. So thanks for tuning in. I mean, we can check real quick and see if there's any new Theros stuff. Oh, wow, there's actually quite a bit. Well, maybe the next time around, next podcast, we'll talk about spoilers when they even have more up. But until then, I'll see you guys later.